Yeah, actually, I guess I'll speak a bit to bounty check as well. So lately we have a QA embedded in almost every department at the studio. So even when ideas are first being conceived, we'll provide feedback on, okay, well, that's going to be this hard to test, it's going to involve this kind of things. And then as the development process goes and we kind of know what's coming in, we start writing test matrices. So we're saying, okay, oh, we want to be able to port saves into multiple games, all right, well, that's going to be this many permutations, this is going to be this many playthroughs, for this. And then ultimately, once the final features go in, we'll have acceptance criteria at the very end that we'll test against. And we'll run those by development and production and say, all right, these are the things that we expect it to do. Is that what you're expecting? And they'll say yes, and then we'll do the final verification. Make sure that when it actually gets into your hands, you're getting something that the production and development actually conceived of.
So, going along this path, usually we like to go to VO once a level is at a place where we pretty much know what the pace is going to be like. We know how long things are going to take. So it goes to VO. That's when City Design gets really heavily into it, and then at that point, I would say Look comes in.
Yeah. Then once things are relatively final, and we're not going to be giving feedback all over the place like amateur. Jeez. Then we'll send her off for translation and for voice recording. And it's actually really important that things are relatively final, because Patrick's always good with giving us really detailed sort of comments from the writing team on each line. So if out of nowhere Morden is going to be singing, then there will be just some comments for the poor translators or for the German voice recording talent who may not be familiar with Gilbert and Sullivan. And so there's sometimes some very nice things like YouTube links, and then just a cascading series of logical checks to say, listen, if all else fails and you've exhausted every opportunity to understand how this thing is supposed to work, just make up whatever you can. And that's how you end up with the German version of Morton singing Gilbert and Sullivan.
Just so I can have a time check, how many people out there actually have questions to ask? Just raise your hand quick so I can do like a quick. All right, so there's quite a few, so we'll probably break into questions for you guys now so there's enough time. Because I think we're done in 25 minutes anyway, so. Raise your hand now if you have a question. And
Makes it like you're in school.
Who's your favorite character to work on throughout the whole series, and playable or non-playable?
Patrick, who's your favorite character to work on besides the ones that you've written? Who's your favorite character?
Really? Seriously? Okay, besides the ones I've worked on, I really liked Samara. I thought Samara was, and I had nothing to do with it. I thought Samara was cool and fun, and it was really interesting looking at a different side of Asari society. I liked taking the Asari, who in Mass Effect 1 we just pretty much went, yeah, they're really nice, they're pretty, a lot of, they're kind of like the dancers, they're commandos, they're whatever, and getting to see that they have Justicars, and getting to see that there's this deeper ancient tradition in their society, it really brought a depth to the species, I thought.
Now, of the characters you have written, who's your favorite, right?
It's either Morgan or Tally. I go back and forth depending on what day of the week it is. Or, male shepherd playthrough or femme shep playthrough.
Cool. Next question. How about the color guy?
Hi. I'm really curious. What was the whole thought process that went into making Mass Effect in the first place? Like, I know it's a really big question, but I'm really curious because there's a lot that went into the game, and there's so much information, and I'm just wondering what was the general idea that you guys had when you wanted to make it in the first place?
Well, like any major kind of title, it all starts with a basic razor, right? So Mass Effect started out with take Jack Bauer and put him in space, or take a certain character and put him in a certain place, and that's just kind of the core of it. And then from that, then everyone basically starts to chip in, give ideas, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's no secret we're working on new stuff at Bioware Edmonton, and even over the next year we're going through the similar processes where it's like, okay, what is the thing that we want to make in terms of a very, very basic one-line statement? Like, what is the experience that we're trying to do? And then people basically rally around it. So what would happen after we have the razors? You know, a guy like Drew or Mac would then come in and really start adding ideas and texture. And then a guy like Derek Watts would start, painting pretty pictures to illustrate, the areas and the kind of playable spaces and just the artistic style. And then obviously the cinematic directors would come in and they would basically say like, okay, what's the engines that we have to work with? What kind of narrative storytelling we want to? So I don't think there was like any specific set of time in which the whole Mass Effect universe came together. It was just basically an iteration and like a layering process over years and years, 2 or 3 years, I think. How long was it, Patrick, that ME1 was conceived for?
It was like 4 years?
Yeah, it was actually quite a bit of time where that layering keeps on continuing, and then you finally see what you get in the final product. And then with Mass 2 and 3, it's just more of that, more iteration, more like, hey, it would be really cool if Cerberus was now an enemy, and this is the motivation for it. And so then we have to expand out everything about that. So it's really just an iterative process. I know it's kind of a circular way of answering it, because there really is no like, yeah, at that point we knew what Mass Effect was about.
Yep. So the nice part about working at Bioware is that the teams are super collaborative, just kind of like Mike is saying. And you do hear, wouldn't it be cool if, a lot. So even as a lead animator, I could go into the cine design pit and say, hey, I was thinking maybe this character might act this way or might act a little bit differently than we've got. What do you think? And Leo could come back to me and say, hey, this creature doesn't look like they've got enough weight, or maybe they should react a little bit faster or something like that. So there's a lot of back and forth that goes on amongst the team. And Casey Hudson, our executive producer, said to me once, sometimes it's the surprises that are the coolest things that show up. Stuff that wasn't really planned out at the beginning, and stuff that kind of creeps its way in and really gives it that little added extra.
How about the guy in the end over there with the red lanyard?
Hi. How's this? I'm a big fan of the recent DLC. I'm just that much closer to playing as Blasta. So, like, Hanar in battle is kind of one of the things on my wish list for Mass Effect. Is there anything on your wish list that you wish you could have done but couldn't do because of time or lack of technology?
Blasto. We actually have strongly considered it, but we have yet to come up with the best gameplay for you guys because they move so slow, and getting them into cover would be next to impossible. They're super tall. So can you imagine? Right? That would be too much fun. So the hammer does. There's a lot of technical issues. So once we solve some of those, then it's always a possibility. But yeah, that would have been a lot of fun to do the hammer.
Roller skates.
Roller skates. Rocket roller skates.
Just quickly, as far as the level design part of it goes, we've been trying to bring back the shifty-looking cow from number 1. Every chance we have, and at the last minute, it always gets cut.
More shifty cow.
Right. How about the guy? Yeah. The guy way to back the hat. Yeah, we have to buy some more mics for next year. Apparently, the tours.
I was going to ask you what the biggest obstacle you encountered during the making of Mass Effect 3 was.
It's different with whoever you ask. Yeah, hey, just break off that mic.
PS3 performance.
that bad?
Yes. The Unreal Engine did not lend itself well to the PS3, so every cut we had to make was pretty much to fit it onto the PS3.
So I mean, like,
No, I love the system. No, I'm not trying to bash it.
no. It's a very difficult platform to develop for. I mean, it just takes the ingenuity of programmers to do it a lot better. It just takes time and patience, as opposed to, like, you know, we just compile it and it works. It just takes more work. So.
If I may. And Mass Effect 1 for PS3, which is coming out soon. Solid. Oh, that's so good. You're going to want to buy 5 copies. You're going to want to build houses.
Alright, let's let Patrick pick it.
Well, yeah, on a non-PS3 front, the biggest obstacle on the writing side, and I'm not speaking for all writers, this is just me, but going from Mass 1, Mass 2, Mass 3, the biggest obstacle for me was actually a self-inflicted one. And it was learning to trust other departments. But just like, okay, you come from, you know, if you hadn't played Mass Effect 1, if the most recent game you've seen is KOTOR or Jade Empire, and you're going like, well, I love these games, these are great, but in Knights of the Old Republic, if someone was angry, they kind of had to tell you they were angry. Like, maybe the voice could get it, because that was like the first time we had VO, but the facial expressions weren't there yet, and then we got Jade Empire, we're like, okay, now there are facial expressions, so maybe I don't have to have someone say, you know, Commander Shepard, I'm extremely angry with you right now. And I realized you could just say, like, Shepard, I don't like that, and go with facial expressions. In each game, the obstacle that I've had to overcome has been trusting other departments. Like, as we went from Mass 1 to Mass 2, got a lot more animations and a lot more cine design, you know, just a lot more tools for them to play with, we could say, like, okay, Tally can be sad, and I don't have to write, Shepard, I am extremely sad. Like, she can be closer to a real person, having a real response right there. And in Mass 3, the part where, like, my biggest, like, pat self on the back accomplishment is, in Mass 3, if you make the wrong choice on Rennick, and Tally is having a sad time, on Friday night, I wrote, you know, no, God, this can't be happening, like, very, very sad Tally. And I came in on Monday, looked at it and went, nope. I'm trusting that with music and cine design, and maybe we'll ask Ashoka to do a little bit of, like, you know, sad breathing or something as she runs over to look at, like, the ships coming down. But just getting to that point where you're, like, you're trusting, you're working as part of a team to trust that, like, you know, it's like a trust fund exercise. I'm just gonna write only the words that I actually need. I'm not gonna write so that, like, you know, nothing else needs to be done. Because you don't get the best drama when you do that. So. Leo's biggest obstacle.
So, hey, can you guys just, like, separate the mic from the mic stand?
Oh, yes. You like it,
Okay.
So this is a bit of a cheesy response, but I think a lot of the time our biggest difficulty is our own enthusiasm. Like when we're in the early phase where we're trying to come up with a razor, ideas are just jumping around like left, right, and center, and I'm talking to people like Patrick, and you know there are areas of the game where you know I want a fighter to be outside the ship, and it comes in and crashes into the ship and takes out a whole wall, and all the air's getting sucked out, and Shepard grabs onto a pole, and there's people and furniture flying everywhere, and then you know someone like Thomas will then look at me and say that we can't do that. So and I'm pretty sure this happens in all departments, we have to, I don't know, temper our enthusiasm quite a bit just to make sure we can actually do the work.
Cool. The individual right there at the very end, tats on the arm. Yeah, you just look interesting.